Well, it's a problem that's plagued travelers to this province for years, a shortage of car rentals. During COVID, rental companies shrank their fleets. Then, as demand rose, a global shortage of car parts meant automakers couldn't replenish car stocks fast enough. And that drove up prices and led to shortages across the country, including here in this province. Now, with tourism season right around the corner, one bed and breakfast owner in Port Rexton says his business is already being hurt by the pricey rental car market. Luke Fisher of the Fisher's Loft joins me now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, I understand that you're already getting cancellations from guests. What have customers been telling you?
Well, this has been a problem pre-COVID, just to be clear. I think COVID has definitely hurt it a little bit more. But unfortunately, some travelers book their travel assuming that they're just going to be able to get a rental car or assume that the pricing is going to be the same as something similar to Ontario, which is absolutely not the case. We had a family that were coming and they had to cancel because they had no idea of the cost it put in place for them to get here. Because it was a family, they needed something a little larger than a small car that two people could fit into, and they were looking at I think it was between $1,500 and $1,800 for 1 week. And for the average traveler, that is a fairly high cost.
And what was their reaction when you were talking to them? What were their thoughts about that price of the rental vehicle?
Well, I feel, Newfoundland is a fairly expensive place to travel around. So when you're, trying to fly here, and by the time get a car and the high price of fuel for the average traveler, it's a little out of reach. And they just sort of said, we just really had no idea that this was what it was going to cost. And they just had to cancel. And the other problem that we face typically when we get a little further into our season is that there aren't even cars available. And when they are available, they are, I think, at even a higher premium because they're the only few cars that are left in one's fleet.
And what went through your mind when you got that cancellation from the customer?
Well, we deal with this endlessly, in fact. It's sort of disheartening. I feel like at this point, the provincial government maybe needs to step in because it's definitely having an effect on the smaller businesses in rural areas. It's different if you're maybe in St. John's, and I guess now Uber's on the way, and taxis and bus services around the city, but you can't really travel to somewhere like Port Rexton, Fisher's Loft, anywhere rurally without having a vehicle.
What do you think government could possibly do in this situation?
Well, tourism generates a huge amount of tax dollars every year. And I feel that there should be at least a sit down with the provincial government and these rental companies and seeing if there's some sort of solution to maybe some subsidy from the government. Maybe there's some compromise somewhere along the lines, maybe getting more vehicles. I feel like something needs to happen because the smaller businesses in rural areas are the ones that's going to suffer from this the most. And it affects everybody. It affects, we have 24 employees and it affects everybody down the run. We really pride ourselves in this area as being a real destination where you can spend several days, upwards of a week, just in this area between here and Bonavista, all the hiking trails that we have in the area. It's just absolutely essential that we try and see if there's a way to resolve this problem. We will have more cancellations because there just won't be any cars available. That's what we end up seeing in our high season, is that people just cancel their trips because there's not even a vehicle available.
Well, this is an issue that just seems to come up every single year. Luke Fisher,
Shocking.
yeah, thank you so much for checking in with us and letting us know how you're doing with it, and good luck with your tourist season.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me your time.
So, just how much does it cost to rent a car? We looked into a number of local options, and to rent a vehicle from St. John's Airport for a week in July, the range was anywhere from about $1,300 to upwards of $2,900. So, why are the prices still so high? Let's take a look under the hood with our next guest. Craig Hirota is with the Associated Canadian Car Rental Operators. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Craig, why does it cost so much money to rent a car?
It's still largely a matter of available supply in Canada. The manufacturers haven't yet made allocation to fleets like they have in the U.S. So our industry is still having trouble sort of refleeting to the levels of demand that our customers require.
And why is there trouble refleeting? There was a low demand during the pandemic. We saw a shortage of rental vehicles as companies sold off their fleets, but businesses have had some time to bolster their numbers. So why haven't they?
Right now, the manufacturers are preferentially allocating their new vehicles to their retail customers. And so we haven't seen much availability to fleets, particularly rental fleets. And some manufacturers actually prohibit their dealers from selling to fleet customers because they don't want those vehicles diverted from the retail demand.
How is pricing this year, from what you're seeing so far, compared to past years?
I expect it'll probably be, well, in general, probably not as strong as it was coming right out of the pandemic. But that's sort of countered by the fact that vehicles have gotten even more expensive since we've come out of the pandemic, and in a lot of cases, the cost of financing the vehicles has gone up as well as the interest rates have gone up. So certainly cost pressures are higher than ever, and in terms of being able to adequately supply our fleets, that's really going to determine sort of the end result on rates, because if we don't have enough cars to satisfy demand, rates will stay extremely strong.
And many people coming to this province, they want to explore rural areas, but you definitely need a car to do that. We're not like larger centers. There's no network of trains or subways connecting communities or anything. Do rental companies have the market cornered here? If that's a tourist's only option, can companies set the price as high as they like?
I'm not sure that's the right way to explain the situation. Newfoundland and Labrador, particularly Newfoundland especially, has always been quite a challenge, just because it takes quite a bit of effort to get vehicles onto the province, and the season is typically quite short. So you typically can't run the same size fleet year round that you can during the high season, which means you've either got to be able to get vehicles on and off the island affordably, and quite often, that cost of ingress and egress of the fleet vehicles is going to be included in the rate. It's just so hard to get fleet surges accommodated with the location.
This is a topic that we discuss pretty much every year. Do you see things changing anytime soon? Is there any solution here to make things a bit better for travelers?
We hope so. Local businesses on the island have been working with local government to try and find ways to support the tourism industry in a more, in the most productive way. We have had, as an industry, conversations with various Newfoundland governments since 2006 to try and see if they would be willing to bring Newfoundland's auto insurance regime into the same, basically the same circumstances as exist in Nova Scotia and Ontario and Alberta, which are better environments for a fleet operator to operate in. Anything that makes it easier to operate in Newfoundland will help encourage greater business development.
Mm-hmm. So a change in auto insurance could make a difference, you say?
It could, and it's a relatively minor change, and it's just directed towards fleet operators. But it is something that was changed in Ontario, Alberta, and Nova Scotia. Alberta and Ontario were changed in 2007 and 2009, and I believe Nova Scotia a couple years after that. But we haven't been successful in convincing any of the other Atlantic provinces to follow Nova Scotia's lead.
All right, Craig Hirota, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.